Imagine a Roman soldier watching Jesus on the cross. Suddenly, the sky darkens, the earth trembles, and he feels that something extraordinary is happening. This soldier, called a centurion, witnessed something that changed his life forever. He saw the darkness, felt the ground shake, and observed how Jesus, despite suffering greatly, asked for forgiveness for those who hurt him. This moment was terrifying and thrilling. Despite being brave, he was so impressed that he said, "Truly, this man was the Son of God." Let's discover this exciting story full of surprises together. Imagine a very brave and experienced soldier, called a centurion, who was in command of many other soldiers. His job was to ensure that everything in the crucifixion of Jesus was done correctly, without problems. This centurion had seen many crucifixions and was used to very harsh and difficult scenes. On the day Jesus was crucified, something incredible happened. While Jesus was on the cross, suddenly, the earth began to shake with a strong earthquake. The sky darkened, and frightening things started happening around. The centurion, who was a very strong man accustomed to terrible things, was very scared by all this. He looked at Jesus and, at that moment, understood something very important. Despite all the suffering and accusations against Jesus, the centurion realized that Jesus was different from all the others he had seen. With a heart full of awe and reverence, he said aloud for everyone to hear, "Truly, this man was the Son of God." This statement was very special because it came from a Roman soldier, someone who didn't know Jesus before that day, but who, upon seeing all those signs, recognized the truth about who Jesus really was. Now, imagine that this centurion, who was a very important and experienced soldier, had a difficult task, ensuring that the crucifixion of Jesus happened the way the religious leaders wanted. These leaders accused Jesus of blasphemy, which is when someone says things considered disrespectful about God. They said Jesus deserved to die because he claimed to be the Son of God, something they thought was very wrong and dangerous. But as the centurion watched everything that happened, he began to notice something different. Jesus did not react like the other prisoners he had seen. Even being tortured, mocked, and suffering greatly, Jesus remained calm and dignified. He did not fight, did not scream, did not try to defend himself desperately. Instead, he endured everything with impressive serenity. The centurion saw how Jesus responded to injustices calmly, even when falsely accused by the religious leaders. During the trial, the high priest asked Jesus if he really was the Son of God, and Jesus calmly confirmed. The centurion was impressed by the courage and truth in Jesus' words, even knowing that this would lead to his death. So, when Jesus finally died on the cross, the centurion realized that Jesus was innocent. He understood that Jesus was not dying because he was guilty of any crime, but because he was the Son of God. This recognition was very strong because it came from a man who was used to seeing the worst in people. Jesus' honesty and dignity made the centurion see the truth in a way he had never seen before. Imagine Jesus being taken by Roman soldiers to be judged. He knew he was about to face much pain and suffering, but even so, he remained calm and dignified. When falsely accused by the religious leaders, he did not desperately defend himself. Instead, he stayed silent, showing an inner strength that impressed everyone. During the trial, the high priest asked Jesus if he really was the Son of God. Jesus responded, confirming his identity, but did so in a calm and confident manner, even knowing that his words could lead to his death. This showed that Jesus had uncommon courage and dignity. Then, the soldiers took Jesus to be tortured. They dressed him in a scarlet robe and placed a crown of thorns on his head, mocking him as if he were a king. They beat him, spat on him, and ridiculed him. But Jesus did not react with anger or despair. He endured everything in silence, like a lamb being led to the slaughter. Finally, when Jesus was placed on the cross, he did not respond to the crowd's cries for his death. He did not curse his enemies nor ask for his own salvation. Instead, he prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." This act of forgiveness was incredibly powerful, showing that even in his greatest pain, Jesus was more concerned with the spiritual well-being of those who crucified him. This dignified and forgiving response from Jesus deeply touched the centurion and everyone who watched. They saw a man who, despite being treated so cruelly, maintained his dignity and compassion until the end. Now, imagine that while Jesus was on the cross, very strange things began to happen, things that no one could explain. First, the sky became completely dark in the middle of the day, as if it were night, and this lasted for 3 hours. This type of darkness was very frightening and made everyone think that something very important was happening. Then, the earth began to tremble violently with an earthquake. People fell to the ground, and large rocks split in two. The earth was literally responding to Jesus' death, and this made everyone around, including the centurion and his soldiers, very scared. These supernatural signs, like the darkness and the earthquake, were seen as messages from heaven. It was as if nature itself was showing that Jesus' death was a special and very significant event. For many people, these signs were proof that Jesus really was who he claimed to be, the Son of God. Additionally, some tombs opened and many people who had died came back to life. These resurrected saints came out of their tombs and appeared to many people in Jerusalem. Imagine the surprise and astonishment of seeing people who had been dead walking around the city. These incredible events were not normal and, therefore, deeply impacted everyone present. Even the centurion, who had seen many terrible things, had never witnessed anything like this. All these signs showed that Jesus' death was not an ordinary death, but something that had a much greater meaning. Imagine the centurion, a very strong and experienced Roman soldier, observing everything that was happening during Jesus' crucifixion. He had seen many people crucified before, but he had never seen anything like this. He saw the darkness in the middle of the day, felt the earth tremble, and heard the cries of the crowd. Seeing all these extraordinary things, the centurion began to realize that Jesus was not an ordinary person. Even being a battle-hardened soldier, he was deeply touched by what he was witnessing. The way Jesus responded to suffering, the prayer of forgiveness he made for his enemies, and all the supernatural signs made the centurion think about who Jesus really was. Then, when Jesus died, the centurion could no longer deny what his heart was telling him. He was so impressed by everything he saw and felt that he proclaimed aloud, "Truly, this man was the Son of God." This was a very powerful statement, especially coming from a Roman soldier who did not know Jesus before that day. This declaration showed that the centurion had been deeply affected by everything he witnessed. He was not an easy man to impress, but Jesus' death and the surrounding events were so remarkable that they completely changed his perspective. This transformation in the centurion was a testament to how Jesus' truth and love could touch even the hardest hearts. After Jesus died on the cross, something very surprising happened that left everyone perplexed. Imagine that there were many tombs around the city of Jerusalem where people who had died long ago were buried. Suddenly, some of these tombs opened, and the people who were dead came back to life. These people, who were called saints, came out of their tombs and began walking around the city of Jerusalem. Imagine the surprise and amazement of the people seeing their old friends and relatives who had died long ago, now alive again and walking among them. This resurrection of the saints was an incredible miracle and showed the great power involved in Jesus' death. It was as if God was telling everyone that something very special had happened, and that Jesus' death was not the end, but a new beginning. These resurrected people were living proof that Jesus had power over death, and that he brought new hope of eternal life for everyone. It was an extraordinary scene and a clear sign that Jesus' death had a very profound meaning. The centurion and everyone else who witnessed these miracles were impressed and scared. They realized that they were witnessing something much greater than anything they had seen before. These powerful signs showed that Jesus really was the Son of God, and that his death had a divine purpose. Imagine Jesus nailed to the cross, suffering terrible pain, and surrounded by people mocking him and calling for his death. Even in this horrible situation, Jesus did something surprising. Instead of asking for help or revenge, he looked up to heaven and made a very special prayer. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." He was asking God to forgive all those people who were hurting and mocking him. This showed such great love and compassion that even the centurion, the soldier in charge of the crucifixion, was deeply touched. This prayer of forgiveness was very powerful because it showed that Jesus cared more about the salvation and spiritual well-being of people than about his own pain. Even being treated so cruelly, he chose to respond with love and mercy. This was something no one expected and left everyone around, including the soldiers, amazed. The centurion, who was a strong man, used to seeing suffering, had never seen anyone act like this. Jesus' prayer made him realize that he was in the presence of someone very special. This act of forgiveness was a testimony to Jesus' kind heart and his mission to bring love and forgiveness to the world. After Jesus died on the cross, his message and sacrifice began to transform people's lives in a very powerful way. The cross, which was a symbol of pain and punishment, became a symbol of love, forgiveness, and hope for everyone. Imagine that, at the time, the cross was used to punish the worst criminals, but Jesus' death on the cross completely changed its meaning. Jesus died on the cross to save all of us, and this showed how much he loved us. He suffered and died so that we could have a new life full of love and forgiveness. This message began to touch the hearts of many people, both poor and rich, and everyone began to understand that at the foot of the cross, all are equal. It doesn't matter who you are or what you have done. Jesus' cross is a place where everyone can find forgiveness and start anew. The centurion, who started the day as a Roman soldier following orders, ended the day recognizing that Jesus was the Son of God. This transformation shows the power of the cross and Jesus' love. This love is so strong that it can change even the hardest heart. Since that day, the cross has continued to do its work, transforming lives over 2 millennia. It has united people from different places and cultures, bringing a message of hope and redemption. Everyone who approaches the cross and understands Jesus' sacrifice finds a new path in life. So, the cross became an eternal symbol of how Jesus' love can change the world. And this love is so great that it continues to touch and transform hearts today, bringing people back to God and spreading hope wherever it goes. And so, this was the incredible story of the soldier who witnessed the last moments of Jesus on the cross. We saw how a courageous and experienced Roman soldier was so touched by what he witnessed that he recognized Jesus as the Son of God. This story shows us the power of Jesus' love and sacrifice, which transformed even the hardest heart. Now, if you enjoyed this story, stay tuned. There are still many other incredible stories to discover. Who knows what else we can learn about these important moments?